I'm Ben, and welcome to the Abject, a YouTube channel I started last year in university to no particular acclaim, except for one episode which for whatever reason, the algorithm really liked. I'm here like a grave robber out of a Yule Book Riot film to dig up the corpse of this dead channel and see what happens. For no particular reason other than I am bored and I am in lockdown. I'm not even going to try and do this shit weekly like I did last time around. I got burnt out really quickly and began to despise the process, so I'm just going to do videos whenever I feel like it, like when there's a movie I particularly want to talk about. In this case, I suppose it's actually two films, both of them called Funny Games, both of them directed by Michael Haneke. For the three of you who may have watched videos on this channel before, you will recall that I suck Michael Haneke's cock big time. His films are definitely not for everyone. I, however, happen to think he is one of the most gifted and precise filmmakers working today. I will be continuing that trend in this video, let me assure you. Now, if you're watching this, there's a 99.9% chance you know exactly what is up with the two versions of Funny Games, but in case you don't, let me briefly summarise. In 1997, Michael Haneke released a film called Funny Games, shot in Austria with German-speaking actors.
Und jetzt verschwindet gefälligst, aber schnell.
Schober. Ist es gebrochen?
He decided eventually that because Americans were the audience he most wanted to hear his message, that he would remake the film with an English-speaking cast, and so in 2007 he released Funny Games, this time with Naomi Watts, Tim Roth, Michael Pitt, and other English-speaking actors.
Now please leave. Right now.
Mr. Farber.
What?
Is it broken?
In this video, I'll be using the 2007 American version as my main reference point, although both versions are functionally the same and a lot of my points apply equally to both. It's just that I saw the 2007 one quite recently and the 1997 one a long time ago, so I'm going to go with the one that is fresher in my mind. Although I will always associate the title Funny Games with Arno Frisch in the original film, I think I might actually prefer the 2007 version, partially because I'm a big Naomi Watts stan, and partially because I think the lighting and cinematography is just a bit more dynamic and interesting in the remade version. The premise of the film is pretty basic. It concerns a bourgeois family of three, a husband, a wife and their son, as they go to their holiday home and are held captive by two young men, who initially are unfailingly polite, but are eventually revealed to be ruthless sadists.
Here, take this for the pain.
What's this now? What happened to you? Ah! What, didn't we just agree that... I mean, just... Jesus Christ!
Funny Games is essentially a polemic on violence in media and our consumption of it as viewers, and the whole thing is designed to make us question what exactly we are complicit in when we consume hideous violence for our own entertainment. Even if you were to strip out the subtext, Funny Games absolutely works as a horror or thriller film, particularly in the first half. Haneke has a really intuitive sense of pacing and tension, and he does not rely on cheap editing tricks to try and generate suspense out of nothing. Haneke's directorial style is absolutely minimalist, it's economical, and his understanding of when to cut and when not to cut is absolutely fantastic. Even in this story, which is designed to be totally artificial and in a way contemptuous of horror films, Haneke shows he has the talent to make a better horror film than most sincere attempts at making a horror film. The movie is famous for having multiple fourth wall breaks throughout its runtime, which are designed to pierce the illusion of the fiction of the film and really make the viewer contemplate what exactly it is they're watching.
They don't want to bet.
Well, it's not an option. There has to be a bet. I mean, what do you think? You think they stand a chance? You're on their side, aren't you? Who are you betting on,
It's an interesting device, although it's definitely a bit heavy-handed, which is a characteristic of Haneke's early films in particular. The Funny Games remake was done in between Cash and The White Ribbon, both of which are a little bit more subtle in their delivery of their themes. In general, I think that is when Haneke is at his best. I prefer a bit more subtlety rather than when it just seems like he's on his soapbox. In Funny Games, more than any other Haneke film, the characters really do come across like they're just devices to get a point made, more so than some of Haneke's more emotionally rich films, like The Piano Teacher or Amour, where the characters feel a bit more three-dimensional. That said, the main performances from the cast in this are all excellent, and this really raises the characters up from just feeling like words on a page into something a little bit more lived in. Tim Roth and Naomi Watts in particular are really good as the couple that the film is mostly focused on, and Michael Pitt is terrific as the central antagonist, despite at any given time looking like either a 5-year-old, or John Connor in Terminator 2, or some ungodly combination of both. Now, there's something interesting about the casting I wanted to mention, and I've not seen this observation made anywhere else. Maybe someone has said it, but I've not seen it. I think Tim Roth's casting in this movie may be Michael Haneke's idea of a joke. Michael Haneke, of course, being a famously jovial filmmaker. We're going into conspiracy theory mode now, boys and girls, so get your anti-5G, Bill Gates-proof tinfoil hats on. Prepare your mind for some nuclear-grade truth bombs about the Michael Haneke deep state, because your brain will never be the same. So, in the third season of Twin Peaks, Tim Roth shows up as a very Tarantino-esque trash-talking hitman. Now, Roth's character gets a particularly unceremonious exit from the main storyline of Twin Peaks, which some people interpreted as David Lynch giving the middle finger to Quentin Tarantino. Tim Roth's main claim to fame is, of course, being in the first two Quentin Tarantino films, Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction. Tarantino somewhat infamously slagged off David Lynch's Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me when it premiered in 1992, saying that it was shit basically, and that he was no longer a David Lynch fan. The theory goes that Roth was therefore cast as a sort of parody of a Tarantino character and given an undignified exit as a kind of jab at Quentin Tarantino. Now, I'm wondering if Tim Roth being in Funny Games might be kind of the same thing. Haneke notoriously hates Tarantino's films. He regards them as the exact sort of weightless, consumable violence that he despises in Hollywood filmmaking, and that Funny Games is all about. I wonder if it therefore strikes Haneke as funny to cast Tim Roth, one of the iconic faces of Quentin Tarantino and his brand of cool violence, and subject him to and degrade him with what Haneke would consider to be Funny Games' brutal, unconsumable violence. Now, as with most conspiracy theories, I have no actual evidence of this being a thing, and this is entirely baseless speculation on my part, but I could see it being true. Now, as much as I like Funny Games, I must say I find Michael Haneke's puritanical and somewhat extreme views on media violence to be a bit unconvincing. I would agree with him that violence is a very serious thing, and people need the ability to deal with it seriously when there is such a need, but I think the idea that violent movies are part of some really broad social malaise is perhaps a bit overstated. The fact that Benny's Video, another film by Michael Haneke, shows the titular murderer watching the toxic avenger of all things, as if that tells us some insight into his character, his motivations, or his extremely violent actions, is honestly a bit embarrassing, and Funny Games does have the exact same attitude, albeit expressed in a much more compelling way. My own personal disagreements aside, I do think that Haneke's points are at the very least worth considering by anyone who considers themselves an active film viewer, and I would go so far as to say that either version of Funny Games is not just recommended viewing, but essential viewing for anyone who is interested in film as an art form and not just as entertainment. So, those are my thoughts on Funny Games. If you have strong opinions on the film, if you agree with me or disagree with me, feel free to leave them below in the comments, or you can just call me a fucking I guess. I won't delete it, that's fine too. I give you my guarantee that I will read each and every comment left on this video. Probably within a time frame of like 2 to 3 months, at which point it will be totally useless for me to even bother to engage with the comment because no possible conversation could come from it. But still, I will read it. I'm sure I'll have more videos coming soon, so if you're interested in watching any of those, feel free to hit subscribe. Also in the description of this video I have some social media links if you're into that kind of thing, and like me, you have sacrificed your privacy, mental well-being, and dignity for the sake of managing some social media accounts. Right then, that's me done. Bye kids. Stay safe, get your COVID shots as soon as you can, and if you see an aged, greasy looking Michael Pitt on your doorstep, don't let him in.